Good morning and welcome to Forging the Falcons on YouTube. On my YouTube channel, we're also going to bring in my Facebook communities. I've got Atlanta Falcons on All Falcons on Facebook and then Scott Kennedy Sports on Facebook. So we're going to bring in those two groups real quick. And an error occurred. Let's try that again. If an error occurs twice, we're going to skip it. Error occurred. There we go. And it looks like we are live. So, Nick, good morning. Good morning. How are you? Welcome to Forging the Falcons. I'm Scott Kennedy. This is Nick Kendall. I'm in Atlanta. Nick is all the way in Seattle, so he is up bright and early. Good morning, Nick. How are you?
I'm good. I'm cold. It is the La Nina this winter. It has been kicking our butts. I thought we were going to have a maybe somewhat mild winter there for a bit. January and especially the first few weeks of February were beautiful. And since then, it's been pretty much 40, 45 degrees and wet. So it's been kicking my butt. I woke up today and there was actually a little dusting of snow and frost in April in Seattle. So it's been wild. It's been a crazy month of April. I am ready for the draft. And then I'm ready for summer. Let's go draft first,
Yeah,
then
the
summer.
weather here in Atlanta can change a lot, and it's playing hell on my sinuses. So my sinus infection is in full flow because we had sleet on top of an inch of pollen on Saturday.
Ugh.
And then it was 80 degrees yesterday. So might sound a little funny. And if I end up starting to munch on a couple of these cough drops, you'll know why. Let's say good morning to some folks. Well, first off, want to kind of get into what we're going to talk about today. Jordan Reed, ESPN draft analyst, relatively new to the scene. I like what I see so far out of Jordan Reed. I like to give credit where credit is due after I shillelagh Todd McShay's awful takes over and over and over again. So just to know that I'm not just a hater, I just don't like lazy work. Jordan Reed did anything but lazy work with a full 7-round mock draft with I believe he had commentary on the first 3 rounds. And we're going to go through that. We're also going to go through, I think it was Chad Reuter put out a mock draft on NFL.com today. And then we'll finish the show by doing a 7-round mock of our own for the Falcons and run through the top 10. Yes, this is a Falcons-centric show, but it's an NFL show. We'll be talking about the top 10, where other players might go. Would this be a good pick, et cetera, et cetera? Who else made good picks? And before we get into that, let's say good morning to a couple of folks. Luke Wright. Luke, bless his heart, sent me a note. He said, Chelsea won yesterday. Let's go. He knows I'm a big Chelsea fan. I got Stamford Bridge on in the background, going out of the Chelsea mug today. But the competition that Chelsea was in yesterday is a 2-game competition. So you play a home and home, you add up the scores, and whoever has the most after the 2 games goes ahead. So they needed to win by 3 goals to advance, and they went up 3-0. They went up 3-0 with 15 minutes left, but then gave up 2 and ended up losing, getting knocked out by Real Madrid. But if anybody has been following me, says, oh, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I got nothing else to do, I'll check out this match. If you watch Chelsea Real Madrid, you were not disappointed. That was a hell of a match. So appreciate the support, Luke. Connor Klein coming in. Says, I know you'll mainly talk Scott's Falcons today, but Luke Fortner really catches my eyes for the Broncos. We can talk Luke Fortner again and how he might fit with lots of teams, Connor. So don't sweat, who you're rooting for. We are fans. They say hate the game, not the players, or something like that. We're kind of the opposite. We love the game. We love the players.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk a little bit about everything. Brian Dunn, good morning. Good morning. EJ, good morning. Let's talk some football. US Dave, good morning, all. And I think if we didn't say hello to Joe, I want to make sure we do. Good morning, Joe. Keith, Albert, everybody. Groundhog himself coming in, Steve Kennedy. That's Grandpa. He usually goes by Groundhog on several of his social media because he was born on Groundhog's Day. So, Nick, how do you want to start? Do you want to go ahead and get into to Jordan's mock on this?
Yeah, let's do that. I think that's the way to go. I think we should probably just, because the Falcons are still sitting there with the top 10 pick. I would not change anything, but I kind of miss the Broncos having that top 10 pick as well, just because it's fun to think about all the possibilities and the jostling and whatnot. But probably starting from the top, just kind of breaking down and seeing who is available when we get to the Falcons pick.
Yeah, so we'll read off the top 10 as we go through. And again, this is Jordan Reed's. It's an ESPN Plus article. what I like what they did was they wrapped all of their digital properties into just plus. So there is no .com plus, there is no ESPN Watch. It's just plus. And being that I will pay for their soccer coverage for ESPN Plus, I get these now too. So thanks, ESPN. That was good of you. I'm now a big advocate for your product. Jacksonville Jaguars select Aiden Hutchinson, edge out of Michigan. I think that's, if we're laying the odds right now, would you say him? It's like 90% either him or Trevon Walker.
I think right now I think there's still a chance that it could be an offensive lineman for them as well. You have Cam Robinson on the tag, and Doug Peterson has been kind of obsessed with building a fantastic offensive line. So I think there's a chance it still could be Ike Ekwonu or Evan Neal. I would put the money on favorite for Aiden Hutchinson, then Trevon Walker. But I don't want to say I think there's still possibility offensive line there for them.
Yeah, I think it would be Evan Neal if it's going to be that guy. It's going to be Evan Neal. Aiden Hutchinson seems like the consensus number one right now. Malik Willis, number 2 to the Detroit Lions. This is about as high as I've seen him go. We were talking a few months ago. After the season, there might not be a quarterback in the first round. And now we're talking about Malik Willis as high as number 2. Yeah. Nick, I told you, and you might not be old enough to remember this guy, but it reminds me of a quarterback that the Cincinnati Bengals took right in that range named Achilles Smith. Mm-hmm. And, toolsy, raw, bust. I just feel like I like Malik Willis. Don't get me wrong. I do. I like his tools. I like his moxie. I love that he's from Roswell, Georgia. Got to watch him play a little bit in high school. And there's a lot to like there, but number 2 just feels so high for him.
Yeah, it does feel really high for him. And I know that, let's say the Lions do like him, but I don't think they're going to take him at 2 overall. If anything, maybe they package, don't they have two first round picks in 2023 as well? If anything, I think they could package 32 in one of those picks to move up to get him if he's slipping a bit. But if they do love a guy, if they do like a guy, then take your guy, especially if he's a quarterback. But it does feel a little bit high. Fun to talk about. I'm not sure. I think Malik Willis has a higher floor than a lot of people are giving credit for, especially in the era of too high defenses. The ability to run RPOs and zone reads makes teams in a real bind when you have an athletic quarterback that's built like a running back like Malik Willis. So I think he actually does have a decently high floor, but still number 2 feels a little high. A lot of people that I've read say that he was running junior varsity level offenses, let alone high school level offenses conceptually. So is he a year away? Is he 2 years away? He's already a little bit older. So 2 feels high. Like the player.
To Jordan's credit, that's kind of what he says. He says, you've got Jared Goff under contract for 2 more years, which would allow the Lions to bring Willis along slowly. That's fine. But, when you got a 5-year max contract, that clock starts ticking quickly these days. Number 3, Evan Neal, offensive tackle, Houston Texans. That makes a lot of sense. With arguably the worst roster in the NFL, the Texans are in position to accumulate as much talent at premium positions as possible. Nice, safe pick there. 4, the guy who this time a year ago we were probably talking about number 1 overall was Kayvon Thibodeau to the Jets. Mm-hmm. Ike Ekwonu, number 5 to the Giants. And then Kenny Pickett, another quarterback. So he's got 2 quarterbacks in the top 6 going to the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers quarterback of the future isn't on this roster. Of all the signal callers in this class, Pickett and Desmond Ridder are the 2 most ready to step into an NFL game and produce. With coach Matt Rule having history with Pickett, this pick, it makes sense. Does it?
I know Rule has the connection. I know that Kenny Pickett is actually a decent athlete overall when you see him. Doesn't have a howitzer of an arm, but he's fine. I think he's not as day one ready as a lot of people will make it sound out. Man, I get it. It's desperation. This comes down to desperation more than anything. A quarterback, a lot of coaches believe buys them time. You kind of get a mulligan year when you have a rookie quarterback. So I just smells of desperation, and I would not want to be a fan of the quarterback or be the quarterback that's taken by a team in the Panthers situation. So not great. And I don't know who it was. One of the analysts out there was like, Panthers players are going to have a little bit of shock because they're going to come in and they're going to see their number 6 overall quarterback having a slower release and less arm talent than the guy that he's beating out or trying to beat out in
Right.
Sam Darnold. So it's a rough pick. I would not want to be. Thank God. This is just again making me feel really excited. The Broncos traded for Russell Wilson because I wouldn't want to take either of those guys top 10.
You know
Really.
how I always say about a small sample size, I can prove any point, but they probably said the same thing when Drew Bledsoe moved on and the guy
Yeah.
came in to replace him, Tom Brady. I've joked, I'm like, Kenny Pickett's going to end up in New Orleans, going to be the next Drew Brees for the next 15 years. A little undersized. He's not even that undersized. He's just underwhelming.
Yeah.
As you're describing him, you're like, he's fine. Fine's a bad word, man. I learned that when I was 17 years old. How do I look? You look fine. I look fine. Yeah, don't say fine. Don't say fine. I'm still triggered 30 years later. So
Yeah.
I'd love for them to take. And can Matt Rule afford a year to take a quarterback that isn't going to really help him right away? If he doesn't win at least 8 games, he's gone. He's done. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, is he going to win 8 games with Sam Darnold? Probably not. So, and they also don't have I believe a second or third round pick. They gave it up for Sam Darnold. God, what a miscalculation of that quarterback position there in Carolina. Pretty rough, but it's desperation. I don't know. They need a quarterback. I'm sure he's saying that I need a quarterback to help me win. And if he believes in Kenny Pickett, then it makes sense. I wouldn't make that bet there at 6 overall, but if you're desperate, it's kind of like it's last call, and you don't have any other
That's how you
options.
stay bad, Nick. You know that.
It is, but we as fans, that's a lifetime contract. He needs it this year, and if that's what is available to him, then sucks. That's bad luck, but maybe you got to take a swing.
Number 7, the New York Giants, via the trade they got to give up the rights to Justin Fields, are taking Trevon Walker, defensive end out of Georgia.
That's my boy.
I know, and that's where you start asking your question. You're like, all right, because I had said, and they moved up to, what was it, 12 or 13 to take Justin Fields. I had said I'd be interested in that number, in that deal that the Bears sent at 4. At 4, I would have been interested in that last year. So would you take Trevon Walker and, let's say, Jason Owe at the time, Odafe Owe, 2 edge guys for Kyle Pitts?
Talk about freaks. Probably want a little bit more than that just for the value of the 4th overall pick, because that's coming up.
What turned into 4. 4 turned into Kyle Pitts. So now we know we've got we know who we're talking about here. Trevon Walker and Odafe Owe.
Yep, I probably would.
For Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm doing that deal.
Yeah. Yeah, probably am too.
And I think there was another 4th or something thrown in there, Nick. I think there was another player thrown in there. So,
man,
I'm probably doing that deal. Odafe Owe is really good at Trevon Walker. I mean, holy cow. Can you imagine having those 2 guys coming off the edge for you?
Freaks. Twist and stunts, simulated pressure. It'd be a lot of fun. Height, weight, speed for days. I mean, two pterodactyls, essentially.
Oh, man. I mean, 2 of the best athletes in the NFL on the same team, opposite sides. That'd be a lot of fun. So now that we're to the Falcons, I want to hit the chat a little bit as well. Travis says, good morning, Scott and Nick. Good morning, Travis. Dylan, thank you for being here, my friend. And Tyrone coming in, saying, are the Falcons looking for another QB? Yes. Yes, they are. Marcus Mariota is in essence on a 1-year deal. They can get out of his, especially if you're willing to eat $40 million in dead cap, you're willing to eat $1 million or so in dead cap if they wanted to get rid of Marcus Mariota in 2023. I think it makes sense to have Marcus Mariota this year, get your quarterback in 2023, and then move forward, especially if Malik Willis is off the board. Malik Willis is the only one I would even consider at this number 8 spot. He's the only one I would even consider it, and he's already gone. So are they looking for that? I would say yes. Yes, they would be looking for a quarterback here for sure. I do not want them trading up to try and get Malik Willis. Do not. Yeah. If anything, I'd want them to trade down.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the move that I would like for the Falcons would be sending a 5th round pick or something for Baker Mayfield. I think he's probably a better prospect than anybody in this class. And you're talking about buying low. That I know he's going to be expensive here pretty soon, but that's just that's a lottery ticket. Any 5th round pick is a lottery ticket, but doing that for the boom of a quarterback like that would interest me the most personally.
And Tyrone, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Appreciate you being here. Mark Schrader coming in. And let's say I'm going to get rid of this guy here real quick. Mark Schrader coming in says, good morning, guys. Survive the storms. Well, good. They're probably heading our way. Probably rain out baseball again this weekend on Saturday. It's been kind of a crazy. But to get to it now, we're 15 minutes in. We said we'd talk a little bit of top 10. But the Falcons' first pick from Jordan Reed is former Marist High School standout out of Atlanta, Georgia, Kyle Hamilton, safety, Notre Dame. And again, Mark, thank you for the support, my friend. We appreciate you being here and glad you're okay in Texas and those storms are heading our way. Jordan nails this on his commentary. The Falcons need talent at nearly every position. Now, let's just scratch nearly. The Falcons need talent at every position across the board. I'm played your editor there, Jordan. General Manager Terry Fontenot could focus on taking the best prospect available. Thank you. The 6'4", 220-pound Hamilton brings tremendous skill set to the defensive backfield. He can be a playmaker and a tone setter for Atlanta. Now, on yesterday's show on the Mile High Huddle channel on Broncos for Breakfast, we talked a little bit about the star position, the rover, the tiger, the wildcat, whatever they want to call it. One of these jumbo safeties who's got the ability to freelance, to just read and roam. And Kyle Hamilton could be that guy for sure. He could do a lot of things. Again, 6'4", 220 pounds, 4.6s, instinctive, long, smart, hard-hitting, good coverage. Wonderful player. Safety, do you need that value? Is he fast enough? All those kind of things come into your mind. I'd be thrilled with this pick, Nick.
Yeah, the one thing about the Falcons here that makes me, love Kyle Hamilton. You know that. I don't care that he ran a 4.7. He plays faster than that. Maybe it does knock him down from being a Derwin James caliber of player, but still a really good safety. My one hiccup in this is it's back-to-back years of devalued positions with first-round picks. And are you maximizing those rookie contracts when you're doing that? When you're, circumventing edge, when you're circumventing corner, when you're going around the edge rusher position, all positions the Falcons could target that you're probably going to get better ROI in the long run, probably better ROI on the long run, given the wide range of outcomes that can happen with any prospect. So that's my one holdup here. Obviously, you're getting a very good player. There's no doubt about that. Versatile, strong leader, can play in the box, can play too high, can play slot. Maybe not going to match up against wide receivers with that size, but still very smart, good player. But are there other guys available that maybe would make more sense contractually, especially given the Falcons are not, they're not a cherry on top away from being a sundae. You don't even have the ice cream in the bowl yet.
Yeah, I like it just because I think a good safety. I mean, again, they call it a safety. It's like he can he can cover up so many problems from the backside.
Mm-hmm.
He makes your other corner. He helps your linebackers in pass coverage. You could run him up and let him rush edge every so often. I mean, you use him the way Eric Berry played at Tennessee. I didn't watch Eric Berry quite as much at Kansas City Chiefs, but Eric Berry was like, Eric, you're on the field. Go make plays. Just go do your thing. You can do that, with a Kyle Hamilton. Now, you talked about guys that they passed over. Say good morning to Franklin here real quick. Good morning, Franklin. Says I'm late, but hope your family and I was okay. Nick, hope the tornadoes and stuff that's been and giving a shout out to everybody else. Thank you, Franklin.
Yeah, crazy storms, man.
But you ask, with two quarterbacks going that high, somebody you want fell. I've said there's like 7 premier prospects that I really want in this draft. Kyle Hamilton's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So Kyle Hamilton's one of them. So if 2 quarterbacks went, that means there's at least one more guy available. And in this case, for me, it's Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner goes with the next pick. The cornerback out of Cincinnati goes to the Seattle Seahawks via the Denver Broncos trade, number 9. Now, I could be real happy. All of a sudden, for competitive nature for 2022, if it even matters for the Falcons, because they're going to be bad, they're okay at corner. Cameron Hayward coming in sews up that other cornerback position for a year. Isaiah Oliver coming back, and hopefully he stays healthy. Cornerback looks pretty good, for relatively speaking, for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I could get Sauce Gardner and knock up cornerback for a decade with 2 of the 2 best corners in the league. And then again, when you're paying AJ Terrell $20 million in 2 years, having Sauce Gardner there on a rookie contract doesn't look so bad. So Kyle Hamilton, Sauce Gardner, what do you think?
That's exactly where I was going to go. Your edge rushers that we were interested in there off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a conversation there for Jordan Davis. Maybe there's a conversation there for Charles Cross or Trevor Penning. I probably wouldn't do that with Ike Ekwonu and Evan Neal are both off the board already, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so those guys are gone. I would probably take Sauce Gardner, given the situation for the Falcons. More valuable position, harder to find position, and I think Sauce is actually versatile enough where he can do a little bit of big slot stuff as well. I think he's fluid enough in his hips where he can combat that. And if he beats out Isaiah Oliver, I don't care what Isaiah Oliver and Casey Hayward, both 1-year deals, I believe, maybe 2-year
Cameron
deals.
Hayward is somebody else, isn't he? I screwed that up. Cam Hayward is defensive lineman, or he's
for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Yep.
he's Ironhead, one of Ironhead's kids, and played at Peachtree Ridge in Georgia here too. So
yeah,
good apologies.
Player. No, it's okay. I always get them mixed up too. Also get like Cam Thomas mixed up or Cam Jordan Cameron. I don't know. But I probably would go with Sauce Gardner. More valuable position. I think he's probably higher floor because of that as well. And he's just a harder type position to fill. You can find your 6'2", 210-pound, 4'5", 40, 4'7", 40 safeties throughout the draft. It's kind of like the discussion we have with interior offensive linemen, the body types and the skills. You're not going to find a Kyle Hamilton down there, but you can probably find another safety somewhere further. And I love Kyle Hamilton, but to take him top 8 with where the Falcons are at, he needed to test even better than he did for me. It's just a bit of doubt where, to me, Sauce Gardner blew it out of the water. Versatile, long. Also, the way people talk about his mentality and his competitiveness. I mean, he changes the room there.
He sounds like prime time. You're not old enough to remember prime time coming out, but he sounds like Dion.
Maybe a little less
drafted in '89.
Yeah, I get a little less air of cockiness from Sauce Gardner. It's more of like, this is business. You know, I'm 100% bodies.
Yeah, he's not the showman. Not the showman.
Yeah, but intensity. And so I probably would go with Sauce Gardner here in this situation. And I know, you already signed Isaiah Oliver. You brought in Casey Hayward. I don't care. This is a team that needs to be taking good players at stacking the board also at value positions. And in this situation, that to me says Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love a trade down. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah. That's
I'd love a trade down here. But if they choose between Kyle Hamilton and Sauce Gardner, I'll be pretty happy with that. If those are the two choices. Because what I don't want to see, because the next two players off the board are wide receiver Garrett Wilson and wide receiver Drake London to the New York Jets and the Washington Commies after at 10 and 11. I do not want to see a wide receiver. You're 3 years away from needing a wide receiver. I mean, for not needing, apologies, for being able to use a wide receiver, a premium wide receiver, for being able to use a premium wide receiver to the best of his abilities. You are 2024 away from that. You would just languish, and we'd be talking about a bust and those type of things of these guys. And while the Falcons are going to be bad in 2022, I don't want them to be unwatchable. You know, there's still reasons. You still want reasons for hope, and having a wide receiver that finishes, a rookie wide receiver, number 8 pick that finishes with 400 yards and on 40 catches, I can get that off the scrap heap. And that's not anything against Garrett Wilson or Drake London. That's just the way this team's going to be next year.
Yeah.
Ethan coming in orange. The DWI guys says, good afternoon, gents, Broncos and Falcons country. He says good afternoon because Ethan is coming in from London. So appreciate the overseas. This is an international show. Forging the Falcons, international phenom. So we appreciate you being here, Ethan. And thank you so much. Good afternoon to you as well. Hope things are going well. Hope you enjoyed that match yesterday. It could have gone a little bit better, but certainly an enjoyable watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Ethan. Hope you're doing well. And man, let's talk some linebackers at some point for Ethan on our channel, because he wants some linebackers, and the Broncos looking at linebackers day 2. So who knows? That's the range where you should be looking at them, which is great.
Other players of interest that go a little bit later for Falcons fans: Jordan Davis, nose guard, goes 13 to the Texans. Jermaine Johnson, edge, goes 14 to the Ravens. Naturally, there it is right there. Jermaine Johnson and Adafa Owe coming off the edge for the Ravens, and you wonder why they break quarterbacks in half and are always in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Charles Cross falling all the way to 16 to the Saints. Interesting. We think of there's a bias here. Doesn't mean we're wrong, that the West Coast is a little softer. Trevor Penning going to the Chargers fixes that.
Yeah.
If Trevor Penning, offensive tackle from Northern Iowa, Trevor Penning is a nasty, nasty dude. I titled that on my YouTube channel, "The Nastiest." I didn't say the best. I said the nastiest. He's got a lot of dog in him. Steelers taking Zion Johnson guard. I was not as high, Nick, on Zion Johnson as I've seen him on here.
A lot of people love him, man. I was listening to I think it was the Pro Football Focus Draft podcast the other day, and they were raving about him, his body type, his versatility, his intensity. I think they said his body type is like a running back. You pumped a little bit more Aaron, not that old school kind of big belly
Yeah.
offensive lineman. The body types are changing. Also a really good pass protector. I think he graded out really well. So I get it. I think this is a pretty good interior offensive line class day 2. So I wouldn't be about taking a player like that early, personally. But when you're starting to talk in the 20s, the late 20s, then that makes some sense. But Zion Johnson, considered a pretty high guard prospect, also has some tackle and center versatility. So I really like the guys who can play across the board. If you like Zion Johnson, though, may I interest you in maybe a Zach Tom 2 rounds later?
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah, it's too high for me. Like I watched him a lot at the Senior Bowl, and he was okay. He wasn't a first round guy to me by any stretch. But that was a small-ish sample size. My guy Travis Jones, nose guard, goes to the Packers at 28. It was a Gilbert. What was Gilbert's name? The digger. After he'd get a sack. Do you remember him?
Oh yeah.
He'd give the grave digger. He played for them. You got your replacement right there.
Yeah.
Gilbert is ringing a bell for me for some reason. So somebody in the chat help me out. You'll be able to help me out with this one. The big nose guard from the Packers that did the grave digging celebration after a sack. Nakobe Dean, 32, Georgia boy, to the Lions. So they come out of this with Malik Willis and Nakobe Dean in the first round. Could be interesting.
Yeah, that could be a good one.
We get to the second round. My favorite under the radar prospect coming into the draft process, Christian Watson, goes 34 to the Lions. So all of a sudden I'm a Lions fan watching these guys. Let's see. So we scroll down a little bit down to 41, 42, Desmond Ridder. That was a strange one. Desmond Ridder to the Colts at 42 when they don't have a first round draft pick and are in dire need of a tackle and a wide receiver. And they take a quarterback. Now, it makes sense, but it goes against getting Matt Ryan. Gilbert Brown's the guy, Ethan. Thank you. Take the Colts taking Desmond Ridder here. It goes against why you got Matt Ryan. You want to win now. You're not building. So that one was a little strange for me. The Falcons took Kyle Hamilton at 8, and they passed on Sauce Gardner to do it. So right at the pick, probably about the 20-minute mark, Nick and I discuss the benefits, pros, and cons of taking either Sauce Gardner or Kyle Hamilton. And frankly, if those are the two picks, I'm reaching in a hat and drawing a name, and I'm happy. I'm happy with either one of those. It's like, okay, here it is. It's a tough choice. You can't lose. I'd be happy with either one of those guys. Now, this is a guy who goes with the 43rd overall, who certainly fits a need. DeMarvin Leal, defensive line, Texas A&M at 43. And I say defensive line because he's not quite edge. He's not quite interior line. He's kind of old school 4-3 D end, isn't he? So how would he fit here? Because this is a player we saw mocked in the top 10s, in the teens earlier in the season.
Yeah. There seems to be a little bit of question about his maturity and his tenacity in improving his game surrounding him. That's one of the reasons he's dropped pretty precipitously here over the whole draft process. And you're right, he definitely is a tweener. I think the body type and the length does lend itself to be a 3-4 defensive end rather than an edge rusher outside linebacker. But in today's NFL, if you're not playing a more attacking style, if you're playing more of a read front rather than an attacking penetrating front, I have some questions about his ability to anchor. He plays a little bit high sometimes, can get driven back, and I don't think his balance is elite. One of the reasons that he's fallen a bit. But he's one of 5, 6-ish interior defensive linemen who are worth a flyer in the first 75 picks. So it's not a deep position. If you're looking for a body there, he's one of the few guys. I'm not in love with the stuff I've heard about him, but definitely talented. I think former 5-star recruit as well. If you can unlock that ability and kind of get him focused, he could be a good pick. But there is some smoke there as far as DeMarvin Leal.
Yeah, he says, and Jordan Reed says of him, Leal's skill set and inside out versatility make him an ideal fit in Dean Peace's 3-4 defensive front. The Falcons must get bigger bodies along the defensive line. I agree. But if I went that direction, I might go the next pick, 44, Cleveland Browns with Perion Winfrey. He's got arms that stretch across the entire defensive line. I think he's got a 7-foot wingspan at 6'4". He's the Senior Bowl MVP. I really like him. There's some questions. Again, why isn't he higher? There's some questions about the motor on him. He answered those questions for me at the Senior Bowl. He was the Senior Bowl MVP. He was the week of Senior Bowl MVP. Really liked him. At 45, if I passed on Sauce, Tariq Woolen, the cornerback out of UTSA, is right there. 6'4" speedster, 4'2" guy would be pretty interesting. And then maybe the most interesting pick of the guys that are still available, Nick, at number 50, the Chiefs take David Ojabo. So I haven't addressed edge with my first two picks. David Ojabo wouldn't do that this year, but again, I'm flushing 2022 down the toilet, man.
Yeah.
And that would be an ideal redshirt year for a guy that you were talking about mocking to the Falcons at 10 earlier this season.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Another thing about David Ojabo is I heard this, I believe, from Andrew Mason, covers the Broncos, but said that because David Ojabo was injured, it can be when he was injured in the pro day, you can consider it a non-football injury because it wasn't a organized game team activity. And you can redshirt him you can put him on the non-football injury list, redshirt him for the entire 2022 season, and then get an extra year of control. That would be yeah, I know it's really cheating the system, but it's kind of like when you aren't playing players.
And I don't even care. I'm not even thinking about salary cap and system. I'm thinking about, that's money that's not coming out, that's not going to David Ojabo.
Yeah, I'm thinking about you only have 3 years of control then if you do draft him, which is not ideal. But you can get an extra year of control. I think his last year would become an additional year would become a restricted season. So if he is good, you can play that card. And you talked about it earlier. 2022, the faster you can flush that turd down the toilet, the better, probably for the Falcons. So sorry, guys. Hopefully that doesn't disparage anybody too much.
That would be a ballsy pick. It's like, we're bad. We know we're going to be bad, but we're going to get better. And this guy's going to be part of that rebuild. I would applaud that selection. I really would.
And you can kind of think about it in a way that is, you just traded that one of your 2 second-round picks for a 2023 first-round pick. That'll be David Ojabo coming in. So
that's a good way to think of it. We traded our 43 for a 15 in 2023. Yep. That's a good way to do it. House and Peter comes in again from way overseas, Cambodia-ish, or I'm not sure where you were. You were at Angat War, or where were you this time traveling? How significant is an injury? Significant. A torn. I didn't know if it was ruptured, torn. I haven't gotten into it enough, but I wouldn't consider him being anywhere near his best for 12 months until the 2023 season.
Yeah, everyone's different though. Cam Akers came back in like 6 months or something this year, but
Cam Akers is a running back. Okay, and I don't mean that. I don't mean that because the skill set's different. I mean because David Ojabo, the question about David Ojabo was his rawness anyway. A running back is born. You give him the ball. There's not a lot to teach these guys. Ojabo still has a lot to learn. So, he's from, you can, in a sense, you almost considered him a year away from, he was a developmental prospect anyway. So that's my point on that. So that he's at least a year away from being at his, approaching his best. That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, totally. Every Achilles is different. With modern science, they're getting them quicker, or getting them healed quicker than ever. So we'll see what it looks like. We don't have the details there. It's going to depend on, every team's going to be a little different with their evaluation there. But at what was the pick, 55 for the Falcons? 50?
He was Kansas City Chiefs was taken at 50,
Okay.
and the Falcons were 43.
See, I would be stacking value positions here as much as I could, especially ones that are going to take a little bit of time to marinate, so to speak. So Sauce Gardner there at 8, and then taking David Ajabo the next pick. If my medical team says they're not worried about long term impact for him on his Achilles, then take him. No issue with that.
So the other part of that too is you start thinking about value positions is the wide receiver position.
Yep.
A couple wide receivers that were still on the board: George Pickens, University of Georgia; John Mechie, University of Alabama. Were still on the board that you passed over. But then at 58, this one becomes a little bit more of a head scratcher for me. Falcons at number 58, the pick that they got for Julio Jones is Jamari Sawyer, offensive lineman, Georgia. Good player. I think he would be an immediate upgrade at left guard. That's not saying a whole lot, but I mean, I don't mean that to mean. It's just true. Jalen Mayfield was really bad last year. I mean, he was graded by PFF as the worst run blocking or the worst pass blocking offensive lineman in football. He struggled, but he's young, inexperienced, and there's room for him to grow. So I'm not ready to just get rid of him. But Jamari Sawyer is better at this stage. He's already better than Mayfield was last year. Yeah. He says he's a solid option who's played all 5 positions up front. He'd be an interior guy. And that's what Jordan Reed says for a team simply trying to add talent. And I like that because that's where Jordan keeps saying that. He goes, they're just trying to get better. Any position you take is going to fit a need. Yep. He could be a plug-and-play option at any interior spot. Yep. So you could upgrade center. Center's not a dire problem with Hennessy. It's not good, but definitely a left tackle.
Yeah, you need tackle options. I don't have an issue with Sawyer. I think he's a versatile player there. I do like, again, a lot of offensive linemen that are going to be coming in later in the draft. Maybe you're looking at it's still a deep edge class. You haven't taken a cornerback yet. Offensive tackle could fall off a cliff here pretty quickly. Was Tyler Smith still available?
I haven't seen his name go by.
See,
so
that he's somebody that makes more sense to me.
Players, Cam Jurgens was there at 61. Bernard Raymond at offensive tackle at 64.
Leave him there because I like that pick.
Yeah, let me see where Tyler went.
But if you're trying to find, some people think Tyler Smith can be a guard in the NFL, but he's only 20 years old, and he possesses rare power. So I would rather
39 to the Bears.
39. Okay, so he did way gone. Okay, good. Well, that makes me feel a little better. Abraham Lucas probably still available though. You mentioned Bernard Ryman and wide receivers galore. So I don't know. I don't really love the Sawyer pick there. I think he's going to be a solid player, and I know he played every single position on Georgia's offensive line, but I think that it just feels a little bit redundant to where the Falcons are at. You just took the center / guard from Stanford last year.
Yeah,
you took Jalen. You took Dahlman. You took Jalen Mayfield. Maybe Sawyer's going to be marginally better than those guys but you also want to see what those guys look like as well entering year 2.
Those were, Mayfield was taken with a pretty high pick too. He was, 65-ish, 70-ish, top of the 3rd round.
Yeah. So, and I think Dahlman was like 4th round. So that's
he was 4th.
I would probably be looking at other positions personally, but if you love Sawyer, then got no issue with it there. But there's still probably plenty of interior offensive linemen that you can take later on that.
It's interesting though, in the picks immediately after this, like the 10 picks or so right after that, there's nobody that I'd really be pounding the table for. 58, Logan Hall, Cam Jurgens, maybe. Jelani Woods, tight end. You could use another tight end. Ryman, I'd push for Ryman. I don't think he's going to be there. I like Dylan Parham, the center out of Memphis. I like Greg Dulcich, a tight end out of UCLA, also at 67. But we get down to the next pick for the Falcons is number 74, and they go wide receiver. Calvin Austin III, wide receiver out of Memphis. I'm going to share a little video on him that I put together here recently. Because I do like, again, you're looking at traits at this point, and he's one of the best athletes in the draft. He's just small. He's 5'8", 170 pounds, but he can fly. He can jump. He's got super long arms, big hands, can catch the ball. I think he'd be real interesting as a special teams guy too. And you're talking third round here, Nick.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting the long arms from, but for the wide receiver position, but dynamic athlete
I
for
thought I
sure.
looked at him and he had this he had the same wingspan that I do. It was like 74 inches for a guy that's 5'8".
73, but for wide receivers, that's
Yeah,
still
but
teeny tiny.
for 5'8".
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
fine.
he's got nine and a quarter, so he could palm a basketball. He's got 9.25 inch, like 9.5 inch hands.
The hand size
So
is good.
I'm 6'1". He's got the same traits that I do
Yeah,
as a 5'8" guy. So proportionally speaking, he does have very long arms for a
yeah.
5'8" guy. He's got a wingspan of a guy that's 6'2".
No, you're right on
Not a
that one.
6'2" NFL guy, but a normal
Yeah,
6'2" person.
yeah. Still looking at it, bottom line for wide receivers, it's like I think the eighth percentile, which
Compare
for
it
his
to his
height.
height.
Compared to his height, yeah, no, for sure. But you want your wide receiver, especially in the middle, they're gonna have to be dealing with a lot of. It's like Tavon Austin, right? There's just not as much space in the NFL to deal with. There's not room to roam, unless you have very good weapons on the outside that can create space, kind of like an Isaiah McKenzie. But the thing that with Calvin Austin is that speed kills. Speed always kills. We saw it last year with Anthony Schwartz, who didn't know a lick of what he was doing at wide receiver, go round two because he is that fast. And Calvin Austin, similarly fast, but not just fast, explosive. The vertical jump was incredible. 20-yard shuttle was great. Broad
Find
jump
ways
was
to get him the
97th
ball.
percentile. Yeah, get him the
Yeah,
ball.
just find ways to get him the ball in space and let him go to work. I like the pick at
Yeah.
74. I've
No,
made it
at
before
74,
myself.
I'm totally okay with it. You need some more dynamism on your offense. If you can work out some screens for him, I mean, talking about the different body types and skill sets you get with somebody like Calvin Austin, adding him to Kyle Pitts and Cordell Patterson should be fun for Marcus Mariota. Definitely add some explosiveness and different types of weapons for your wide receiver room that this team desperately needs. I don't have an issue with that. I just, again, he's not going day two despite his incredible speed and shiftiness and whatnot because of the size
Yeah, he's
and part.
small.
Yep.
He is.
Teeny tiny. Yep.
Maybe can he be a punt returner? I would imagine a kid with this type of athleticism and that size has
Yep.
returned punts.
Yeah.
Cutthroat Trader, who's the best OT in your opinion? For me, I go Evan Neal, and I would not argue with anybody that says Ike Mequano. So again, if you were to say you like one, I like the other, I'm not going to argue that one because they're close enough for me that it's those two guys.
Yep. Yeah, I don't. Honestly, it depends on what you're looking for. Are you going to be a team that's looking more so to drop back 50 times a game and you need a pass protecting wall? Then I'm probably going to take Evan Neal. If I'm looking to be more of a 50-50 split team, run some either power gap or zone, I'm probably going to lean Ike Mequano. It just depends on what type of team, what type of identity are you trying to build on offense.
And John Pope comes in and says, I think a lot of people forget that we drafted Mayfield as a right tackle. I gave him a pass for last year. I did too. He's drafted as a right tackle, but I don't think he's ever going to be a tackle in the NFL.
Nope, too stiff.
He'd only played 16 games in college at Michigan. So between COVID and injuries and all these type of stuff, he didn't play a ton. So he played more games last year than he did in his entire college career. He's young. I think he turned 21 at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
Again, he definitely gets a pass. He shouldn't have been playing. That's not his fault.
Yeah.
There's other guys I still would have rather had Spencer Brown, who went, and I'll say that Spencer Brown. Everybody drink. That was my guy last year, and he ended up starting at right tackle and doing very, very well for the Buffalo Bills. And he went 30 picks later at the end of the third round, close to 100. There was your right tackle replacement for Caleb McGarry.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Jalen Mayfield, again, that's kind of talking about it earlier, taking cellular. This team is not plugging a guard away from competing next year. So I'm probably looking for a little bit more value positions there if I can. And we have John Pope coming in saying I'd rather have Alec Pierce than Calvin Austin. Night and day, different types.
Gone because I'm with you. I would too.
Yeah, night and day, different types of bodies too.
I think Pierce Pierce went 78. So wait, what pick was this? 74. I would too, John. You're right. I would too. So again, we hadn't gotten into the guys I would rather have. If you take Calvin Austin at 74, you're passing over Chad Muma, linebacker from Wyoming, good player. You're still haven't addressed the edge in this one, and Josh Pascal was there from Kentucky, so I might have gone that one too. And I would definitely take Alec Pierce, wide receiver, Cincinnati, over Calvin Austin for the reasons you say. He's a 4.3, 8, whatever, mid 4.3, 6'2", 220, 40-inch vertical leap. Absolutely, I would go that one as well. So I agree with you there. And then we get down to 82, and the Falcons take running back Isaiah Spiller out of Texas A&M. So they still haven't addressed edge. Well, they have, because he had DeMarvin Leal, which is kind of a tweener. Could use another running back. It's not that big a deal because you still have Mike Davis, you still have Cordell Patterson, and you brought in Damian Williams on a free agent contract. So I don't know that I'm going Spiller here in the third.
Yeah, he's an okay running back. Running back to me, Joe Cannon saying Spiller's a great pick. He tested fine, and I think the testing is somewhat overrated for the running back position. But still, this is a fine pick. It just feels like, again, it's one where if 2022 is a flush down the drain kind of season, you're using up one of his best seasons and a value pick in the third round there on a running back. Maybe it's more important. That seems just, again, it's the cherry on top at the end, the running back. You're wasting a value, one of his best years in the league, probably drafting a running back like that with a top 100 pick. Now, day 3, all bets are off. If you like a running back there, then God bless you. But top 100 picks, these need to be guys who are starting the next, 2023 to 2025. So I don't know if it's the right time, unless you really love the guy. But I personally don't really love it. If Kenneth Walker, Kenneth Walker or Breece Hall were here, then okay, yeah, those are a tier difference than the rest of the running backs in this class. A Spiller, though,
I'm not sold on that pick at 82. Talking about guys, Chris Walker was Christian. Good morning, Chris. Was Christian available at 74? No, he went off the board at 34. So I don't think Christian Watson shouldn't fall below 40. That's as low as he should fall with his size, his speed, his athleticism. He shouldn't fall below 40. But we will see. Some guys that they passed over, that Jordan Reed passed over. Again, we're going through Jordan Reed's 7-round mock draft on ESPN. Great job with this, Jordan. So we're going to pick it apart because that's what we do. That doesn't mean we're, we didn't say this isn't still a great job to do all this. I just don't know that I would take Isaiah Spiller 82. I'd rather have Daniel Faalele, another offensive tackle at 84. He's 6'8", 380 pounds. You worry a little bit about his mobility, but Arthur Smith likes to crunch people. He can move people. He can absolutely move people. In the end of the third round here, that's not a bad place to try and get him. Let's see. Kingsley Enagbare and D'Angelo Malone went 87 and 88, 2 edge guys with some upside that I would have taken over a running back. Let's see. Cam Taylor-Britt, what do you think about that? Him as a corner?
I love Cam Taylor-Britt.
Cooked by Calvin Austin in that video I showed earlier.
I really like Cam Taylor-Britt, which it pains me to say because he's a Nebraska Cornhusker, but he's a good player. I think he's got a little inside-outside versatility, good tackler. I think late round 3 to early round 4 is a good spot for him. I would be ecstatic to add him to the Broncos secondary room at pick 96 or 115 or 116. Have no qualms with it. Good size, decent enough athlete testing. I know that Calvin Austin in that video you showed cooked him, but I think that was you're not having the help there. And Calvin,
you're
talk about space.
One-on-ones. If you can get anybody that even stays close on defense, you've got somebody. Those are such offensive drills. It's not even funny. You've got no 55 help. Yards of field to try and cover. No pass rush. You can't even really jam them. The other guy that, that I would pound the table for at 94, and if he falls as far, there's going to be a lot of teams that regret it, is linebacker Troy Anderson. 243 pounds, 4'2". Just an instinctive football player at linebacker. And I know inside linebacker is a little bit devalued, but when you got one, you got one. You know it. When you're with all the side-to-side plays that happen, and if you can put the fear of God into some of these slot receivers coming across the middle, it makes a difference. And I love Troy Anderson. So I think I just named at least 5 players I would have rather had at that spot than a running back. And that's just the ones I know. There's some other guys. in there that I'm just not as familiar with. So not for me. Not at that pick. I'm not a big fan of that pick.
Yeah, and Dane Brugler has a second or third round grade on Cam Taylor-Britt, so
Now
keep an eye on him.
was he was a running back, wasn't he? Was Troy Anderson a running back or a quarterback?
Both. He did both. He did, I think, a running back first, then he was going to transition to linebacker, and then Montana State's quarterback got hurt, so he made the transition over to quarterback, and then he went back to linebacker. So he's been around. Football player.
Just football player. Old school.
Yeah, he's a fun player. No doubt about it. Great athlete. You're probably going to have a little bit of a transition as far as the working off blocks, keying, and filling against the run, just because that's such a mental processing game, and doing it in Big Sky is not the same as doing it in the NFL, but the athleticism tracks the work. You have to assume he's a very smart and hard worker to be able to play all those spots as well for that football team, even if they are, Big Sky Conference. So
yeah, I don't care if you're playing D1 somewhere and pulling that stuff off at different positions, you can play the game. And again, you put him at Alabama, he's still 6'2", 240 pounds, running 4.4. That's the other thing. And again, watching him and Chad Muma side by side at the Senior Bowl, it wasn't close for me. Not close. I would have taken Troy Anderson 7 days a week and twice on Sundays when I was going to need him. Moving to the fourth round here, the Atlanta Falcons select Christopher Allen. They finally start addressing the edge position at 114. I'm not as familiar with Christopher Allen as some of the other players that goes right after him was a guy I really like. Talking about getting bigger on the defensive line was Tito Ogbonnia from UCLA, 330 pounds. JT Woods, this is about as high as I've seen him. So I think, Jordan and I share a brain on a lot of these guys, I think. Of course, his stuff's also the most recent. Some of these other mock draft boards haven't been updated in a while. But Romeo Doubs, wide receiver from Nevada, Haskell Garrett, defensive tackle, and then Zion McCollum went to 124 to the Eagles. All players we really like. Christopher Allen, what do you think, Nick?
Is that's the Alabama kid?
Yes.
He's got incredible tools, man. His tape, it pops. There's a reason he was, I think, a former 5-star recruit as well. The issue has been injuries for him and staying healthy. But you're talking about round 4 here. That's about where it makes some sense to take a swing on that. He's extremely slept on. But you do worry about the long-term ability because he's just had so many injuries and it's made it so he has had a failed launch in his career at Alabama. But man, the traits, the tools, they look pretty obvious to me when I've watched him.
And Sam Williams going to the Baltimore Ravens. So Sam Williams is an edge that I think is a top 15 type of guy. And let's see, that would give them, they had Jeremy Johnson, Adafa Owe, and Sam Williams. Yeah, good luck against those guys coming in. Jesus.
Pretty fun.
If they pulled that off, you're going to wonder, I say all the time, how's Baltimore always have such a good defense? This is why. 139, Sam Williams. I wouldn't mind the Falcons taking a flyer on him if he's still around at this spot. If you're willing to go after Deshaun Watson, you're willing to go after Sam Williams in the 4th round, flat out. So, make sure you're clearing it do your due diligence, have your senior ranking women officials in the room for the interview and have them sign off and go after Sam Williams. John Pope has a good comment here. Also, he says, I like Dameon Pierce out of Florida more than the Spiller pick. He's always available in the 4th, so we can pick someone else with that 3rd, and he's got power vision and burst. He's stocky. Guys just slide off of him. I'm a fan of Pierce as well. I liked him a lot at the Senior Bowl. I also liked Rashad White and then Devontae Price out of FIU, and those guys are usually available too. So again, a top 100 pick on Spiller, not for me. That one's not for me.
Yeah, I just doesn't make sense with the timeline for the Falcons either. So there's other running backs you can have day 3 that'll make a lot of sense there. Trench player, just get somebody in there to throw a log on the fire, and hopefully you get somebody who can develop and help you more in the future than the 2022 return, which would be probably the biggest thing with drafting a running back day 2.
And we get to 190, and the Atlanta Falcons take wide receiver Dontario Drummond out of Ole Miss. No.
I knew you didn't like that one.
Yeah, again, it might have been just a bad couple of days, but Dontario Drummond dropped more passes at the Senior Bowl than the rest of the receivers combined. It's like, okay, we'll use him in a different type of manner. Well, he's not even, everybody wants to talk about Treylon Burks being this freak guy. Well, he didn't test like a freak guy. And Dontario Drummond didn't really either. Let me pull up his numbers real quick, but he's not 6'1", 220, 4.65, 34-inch vertical leap, 122 broad jump, and has trouble with hands. And it has questionable hands. No, not for me, dog. Not for me. I'd go in a different direction here, Nick.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember watching a lot of slants and easy routes and generated space for him at Ole Miss with Matt Corral and that heavy RPO offense. So I'll take your word for it on the Senior Bowl struggles. But what are we in right now? Round 6? Are there other wide receivers here that make sense to you?
There's other, and that's the thing. You always look at, okay, who else is available? Jack Jones, cornerback, Arizona State is a solid player. I would rather get John Ridgeway, the big nose guard from Arkansas, to plug in. We need some space on the defensive line for sure. I'd rather go that direction. If I wanted to go running backs, Kyron Williams isn't all that bad a pick. I like Chris Paul at 204, offensive tackle guard, goes to the Tennessee Titans. Jean Delance is available. We talked a little bit about him yesterday. Tyler Chandler, running back, and then again at 213. Now we're back down to picking again at 213 when the Falcons take Kalen Barnes, cornerback out of Baylor.
I haven't watched any Kalen Barnes, so can't really speak on him. Do have watched a good bit, actually, of secondary at Baylor, but Kalen Barnes have not focused on him when you have JT Woods and Jalen Petrie that you can enjoy instead. So don't know, but don't love the Drummond pick. And you're talking, late day 3 here. These are flyers. These are kind of lumped together with the undrafted free agents. But Drummond, that pick, you think there'd be better options available?
Kalen Barnes came in and is the one that ran a 4.23.
Okay.
He
from where?
6 foot. As soon as I see Baylor, I think 4.2. I mean, that's just what happened. These boys in Texas were flying. The Sam Houston State kids, the UTSA kids, the Baylor kids. Texas was fast. 6 foot, 186, 4.23, 31 3/4 inch arms. So a little bit on the shorter side. But again, you're talking about a comp pick at the end of the 6th round. Look for traits. He's got plenty of them.
Yeah, no, that's what you want to swing on. I thought so. Baylor had 2 freak athletes running out there. Okay,
yeah,
multiple 4, 5.
And JT Wood was. I think they had a wide receiver that was like that too. I mean, wouldn't Tyquan Thornton with Baylor? Was that a Baylor kid?
Fastest kid at the combine this year. Yep. Now, I'm really curious to see where Rule goes next for college football because we need him in college football. Honestly, he does a good job of getting those track athletes in to NFL or college programs and building them up. So will be interesting to see once he flames out of Carolina, which seems somewhat inevitable at this point.
I'm gonna highlight this comment. But one, because it's new, champagne bath, and I wanted to say welcome. And I'm gonna try not to sound too harsh on this when I respond. But I think the Falcons' defensive line and offensive line is okay. We need depth at wide receiver. If we give target a defensive player, then we should take safety before any other defensive players. Frankly, the Falcons right now, I would say the only place they have good talent and depth, the only place is cornerback. I think they've got 3 legit corners on the team. Every place else is a need. The defensive line last year was atrocious. It was Grady Jarrett and everybody else. It was awful. And there were 2 gaping holes on the offensive line that were worse than the defensive line. So if I look across, when I call the defensive line in the system, I'm calling it a front 5. The 2 edge guys and the 3 defensive line guys. Steven Means at one of the edges, I think, generated like 1 quarterback pressure in the final 14 games of the season. Didn't have a sack. It was almost statistically impossible how bad he was. Then I'm already starting to forget some of these guys' names because they're so forgettable. Nose guard. Literally, I can't even remember.
Anthony Rush,
Tyler Means, or somebody. I'd have to look at them. They were so bad that I've already written them off because you can't bring them back. And then Jalen Mayfield and Caleb McGarry were two of the worst pass blockers in the NFL on the offensive line, which just killed your team. So, target safety. If Kyle Hamilton was the first pick in this draft, which I love because I think he's the best player out there and does everything really well. But if you can get an edge, if you can get a big defensive line, if you can get you've got to address those positions in this draft. And Champagne Bath, appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, it's having watched the Falcons and the Broncos last year, I can say that the Falcons' trench play was some of the worst I've seen in a while. It was painful to watch. I'm not quite ready to give up totally on Jalen Mayfield, year 2, really young, et cetera,
Yeah,
et
me
cetera.
neither.
So I'm fine with him getting another year here. If he struggles this bad again, then hopefully J.J. Dahlman can replace him or compete with him there at that left guard spot. Right tackle needs help. Caleb McGarry just not getting it done, getting your quarterback killed. Hopefully somebody with a little bit more spring in their step can help negate some of the issues at right tackle, going from Matt Ryan to Marcus Mariota, but still, it's an issue. It's not just pass protection where McGarry struggles too. It's his run blocking isn't very good either. And then the defensive line. I mean, you talked about it. Linebacker, let's just leave that in a box. I don't care. Linebacker, yawn. But the defensive line, edge rusher. I know you signed Lorenzo Carter, but he's more of a jack, where he's a versatile guy who can come sometimes.
And on top of that, he just replaced Dante Fowler, who only had 4.5 sacks. He was the leading sack guy last year. So there's one.
Yep.
You're not putting him next to on the other side of Dante and hoping Dante steps up. You replaced Dante Fowler. So that was a meh. That one's okay. Lorenzo Carter's kind of been a journeyman, hasn't really lived up to full expectations there. Cheap end edge guy. But again, you're just replacing one that was decent in Fowler. You still haven't done anything with Steven Means, who was just horrendous, statistically impossibly bad last year. So Deion Jones is an inside linebacker, and he lost his running mate in Foyo Oluokun, but Rashawn Evans is coming in. Good signing. I don't mind that pick. That signing at Evans got a little bigger there. But again, you just replaced one. You still have a big hole on the other side at edge. And if you can get one of those guys at edge, Travon Walker Falls, Kayvon Thibodeau, Jeremy Johnson, one of those guys, I'd be pretty happy with one of those picks at 8.
Yeah, your edge rushers right now, according to our lads, Ogundeji, 5th round pick. Not many 5th round picks starting at edge rusher in the NFL, let me tell you that. And then 2 street free agents behind the Lorenzo Carter and Ogundeji, and James Vaughters and Quentin Bell. And if you are saying who, when I say those names, then I don't blame you. So edge is definitely a position the Falcons need to attack. Defensive line, if you can get a body there, that's fine. I don't really have an issue with it. You got Taquan Graham, Marlon Davidson, Grady Jarrett, probably coming close to the end of his time here in Atlanta. If you can get a guy there that you can think can be a long-term starter there, it's adding a log to a fire. You don't want to draft offensive line and defensive line when you need them. You need to draft them a year before you need them, because they take a year to ferment. It's kind of like a flower. If you want the beautiful growth or bulb at the end, you have to plant it the winter before or whatever, and then appreciate it later when it is blooming. So same thing with the offensive line and defensive line. So those are spots. But I mean, I really disagree with edge. The edge rushing position of the Falcons right now is horrific. They do need wide receiver help too. But this is the reason that many people keep saying this Falcons team is going to be contending for the first overall pick in 2023. Mm-hmm. They're that bad on paper. They're that bad at a lot of key positions across the offense. So it's a concern, no doubt about that. But I can't disagree more with the edge spot. You need more talent. You need more athleticism. You need, simply put, better.
Yeah, Ogundeji was okay last year as a 5th round draft pick rookie. He outperformed that, but which made him a below average NFL starter. Taquan Graham, same way. He was not meant to play right away, and he's in there at one of the defensive line positions. Real quick, I want to hit this one, and then we're going to get out of here. We're just past an hour. Sorry, we didn't do our own mock draft. We're going to have to catch up on that. But how's the Falcons special teams? Good. Happy with the special teams. Whoever has come in as punter has done a good job. And then Younghoe Koo got paid. He got a long-term contract from the Falcons. One of the best kickers in the NFL. Went to Georgia Southern, fan favorite. Love this kid. Glad he's back. And then you can run Cordero Patterson out there at kickoff return if you need to. And then at punt returner and kick return, you got Avery Williams who was really good. He was really good in those spots. He was drafted for those spots last year and was forced into playing defensive back when he had no business playing a starting defensive back role, and he did it against the Cowboys. And I think CeeDee Lamb ran him ragged out of the slot. So the special teams are solid. No real complaints there.
Yeah, it's hopefully the Broncos special teams are better this year. But Scott, I think we're going to be back on Friday if we want to do our own mock draft then.
Okay. We can come back on Friday. I hadn't planned on being back on Friday.
Oh, I thought we talked about that the other day. Maybe I was mixing up.
No, that was for Combine Week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we will definitely be coming back the Friday morning after the Combine. We will be
after the draft. You mean?
Yeah, after the draft. I keep saying that. It's like the third time I've done that. After the draft, I keep calling the draft the Combine.
Well, we are still. Maybe we should be doing Fridays up until the draft.
What do you think? You guys want to have a mock draft Friday, and we can do twice a week up into the draft, and then the week after the draft. I think we can do that. So yeah, let's see you on Friday then. And on that note, we'll get out of here. And want to say thank you to our super chat superstars, Mark Schrader and Ethan, the DWI guys, to our benefactors of the show. Appreciate you being here. And for everybody else, thank you for being here and contributing to the chat. And hit that like button. Hit that like, subscribe, and share. On the YouTube page, I was at 1,998 subscribers before this started. So let's see if we can get that over 2,000 before the end of the day, because we do get a lot of folks that watch us after the fact. And I appreciate y'all. And if you noticed on my last one, we had a lot of comments after the fact. So I'm in there. I'm in the comments answering questions and listening to your takes, because I'm certainly not going to tell you I'm right. I'll tell you what I think, and then we'll find out. We'll let time tell. So appreciate y'all being here. Nick, what do you got going on the rest of the day?
I want to get a dog walk in before it probably freezing rain or whatever again. And it's crazy weather. And head on into work. It's going to be a day full of meetings. Typically, that's what's typical of my Wednesdays. So hopefully maybe even get an article or two in for Chad, because I am lacking right now in April. I know Chad's sitting there shaking his fist at me every time he sees me tweet or say something that's not content.
All right. Well, we will see you tonight. If you want more football talk, we will be on the Huddle Up Pod on Mile High Huddle. I'll be in the background with Chad and Zach tonight. Otherwise, we will see you Friday, where we will definitely do a 7-round mock draft. So until then, we'll see you next time, and thanks for being here.